Hot Mic is brought to you by Red Wing Shoes of Fargo. Built to last. 3003 Main Avenue, Fargo.
Bison men's basketball opens up conference play in commanding fashion, and the women, they start tonight. We'll also give you an update on the World Junior Championships that's going on in the Twin Cities. A lot to get to. A busy Hot Mic starts right now.
Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. I was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Thursday morning. Welcome to the first show of 2026. It's Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, KNBN in Rapid City. Hello to everybody down there in South Dakota. Also streaming on inform.com and the WDAY Plus app. Welcome back. It's good to be back here. Brand new year. Can we officially say it's the coldest day of the year? Absolute ghost town out there on my drive in and then getting into the station. Where is everybody? We got stuff going on. We got stuff to do. I kid. Enjoy the holiday. A fun night last night. We'll get into that in just a little bit. Once again, hi, everybody. Sam Getzinger hold down the fort this week while Dom is away. He's got the week off. But if you followed our sports coverage or if you watched any of the Bison games this week, you know he's still working very hard. So I guess it's probably safer to say he's got the week off from the show, not necessarily the week off from work. He's got a big trip planned this weekend. He's off to Nashville pretty soon. He's hosting the Walter Payton Award ceremony that's coming up on Saturday. You can watch that on inform.com. Coming up on Saturday at 6:45, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. We'll also have some coverage of the FCS National Championship game that's coming up on Monday. So he's working hard. He'll be back on the show at the start of next week. But in the meantime, you got me, Eric, Brody. You got us for 2 more days. That's a good one. Fun night last night out at the Shack for Bison men's basketball and their conference home opener. A lot of us at the station were there, and it seemed like a lot of you were there as well. Around 2,000 people over at the Shack last night to catch in some Bison basketball. That was super cool to see on a holiday weekend, holiday week, I should say. Eric, you were the local celebrity of the town, weren't you? You were getting stopped left and right with people congratulating you on the whole gas ordeal that you got. If you missed it, Eric, our producer, won free gas for 2026. He won a drawing. So, yeah, you were the talk of the town last night. Attaboy. Nice job. 2026 off to a hot start for Eric and for all of us here. Hopefully you celebrated and had some fun. You did it responsibly. I was not intending to stay up until midnight. It just so happened to be that way as I was getting ready for the show. And plus, it sounded like the 4th of July outside of my apartment last night. So I got all the festivities in, and we're ripping and roaring and ready to go here in 2026. Fun show planned for you today. As I mentioned, we'll get to Bison basketball in just a little bit. The men had their first game of the conference stretch last night. The women start tonight. We'll have Jory Collins on at 10:35 coming up later on in the show to preview their matchup with Oral Roberts later on this evening. They got Denver coming up on the schedule as well. More Bison football news to pass along. It's been that kind of week, a newsy week for Bison football, but I promise this is some good news that we'll get to if you missed it yesterday. World Junior Championships is off and rolling, continuing to go. They're now down to the home stretch. The tournament-style bracket starts here pretty soon. We'll get a full update on what's going on down there in the Twin Cities at Grand Casino Arena with Brad Schlossman, who will join us to start hour number 2. Of course, UND hockey is back in action this weekend as well. Mercyhurst is on the schedule, so we'll get an update on what UND hockey could look like this weekend. Spoiler alert, going to be a little bit shorthanded. Eric's asking me where Mercyhurst is. If you haven't followed along with the show, you know by now I'm horrible at geography. I know they're east. I don't know where east, but I know they're east. And I should know because I know people who've went to that school. But nonetheless, Mercyhurst is coming to UND for this weekend. So looking forward to that. We'll also have Hunter Pinke on the show as well. Eric says Erie, Pennsylvania is where Mercyhurst is from. That's east, isn't it? Now I'm getting my rights and lefts mixed up. No, it is east. Yep, I am right. That's a win for me in 2026. My New Year's resolution, learn geography. Is it going to happen? No, it's probably going to be one of those New Year's resolutions that falls through the crack. But I will give it my best. All right, we got a lot to get to, so let's hop into it. Let's get into the headlines and highlights from the last day or so, and we'll start with the big game that happened locally, the Bison men's basketball game last night against the University of South Dakota. Back at it for the Bison after a lackluster stretch in El Paso to end the non-conference portion of the year. Now, they had an injury-riddled University of South Dakota squad come to the Shack last night. Here's how things went down. Cameron Fens in South Dakota started off really well. For the Bison, it was a little choppy start to the ball game, but then they found their footing. Trayson Anderson got his first start of his career, and he did really well. Big defensive block there. Isaiah Bunton looked really good for South Dakota, the freshman who's getting some big minutes, knocks down a deep three. Damari Wheeler-Thomas back in the lineup for NDSU after missing the last non-conference game of the year. Great take there from him. Jordan Crawford nails a three. He was also fantastic in the game for South Dakota. But then at this point in the first half, this is where NDSU really took over. Tay Smith, Travion Carson put on a three-point show. Tay Smith had 3 threes in the first half coming off of the bench. Here's another one from straight away. Knocks it down, and the lead continues to grow as they get closer to the halftime break. And even when he was missing, it didn't matter. Markai Strickland with the putback on the missed three-point shot. And this was to end the half. Andy Stefanowicz steps into a three from the wing. 8-point lead for the Bison going into the break, 38-30 against South Dakota. And then once they came back from the halftime break, oh man, NDSU came out and just stomped in the second half. It was impressive. Travion Carson, really, really impressive game. Flirted with a near triple-double in the matchup. Helped North Dakota State jump out to a 20-point lead in the first couple of minutes of the second half. Here's Anderson once again down low. Bucket and the contact. First career start worked out pretty good for Trayson. Damari Wheeler-Thomas over the 7-footer for USD. Cameron Fens. That's a really good take. And then the Showtime Bison would enter the conversation once again. Strickland doing what he does best, throwing it down with authority. And North Dakota State gets the win to start conference play 84-61. They explode for 46 points in the second half, and they improve their record to 11-5 on the season. And for the first time in 3 years, they win their conference opener, which is pretty good deal. We saw it last year when they got off to a slow start in conference play, and then the rest of the year they tried to fight and battle back from that. So to start off hot, take that any day of the week. After the game, this is what head coach Dave Richmond and the player of the game, Travion Carson, had to say about the performance against South Dakota.
Really excited to get conference play going. I told you all along, I think this group is special. I think there's better and better versions out there. I think we were pretty close to that, in particular probably those last 25 minutes. But as we know, we gotta keep our foot on the gas. I think that's what happened to us right before break. We got a little bit complacent, lost some of our humbleness, our hungriness. But to our guys' credit, they really responded here tonight. But just pregame, as I'm a mess back there and having a conversation with Strage, I just felt like those first 8 to 12 minutes were going to be choppy. And just meaning like it's they have nothing to lose with all their injuries. They had played a game. We hadn't played a game. It had been some days, Trayson starting for the first time in his career. Like, there's a lot of things that go through 18 to 23-year-olds' head, whether I like it or not, or whether I expect it or not. And so it honestly went about as according to plan as I thought, not as I had hoped. I wish we would have been better out of the start. But I'm really glad the way we settled in.
First time in 3 years you start league play with a win. How big is that for you?
It's great. I think that was something like, it's not about me, but just kind of how I felt, a little bit uneasy the last 24 to 48 hours. Is part of it was taking care of business at home. Part of it was getting out of the gates better than we had in the past. And but all that's irrelevant. That's what's happened. This is what happened tonight. We're 1-0, and we need to do a great job preparing the next 2 days so we can be 2-0 come Saturday.
Just doing what I can to help us win. My teammates, as for scoring, just my teammates finding me in my spots, getting what I can, and just finding them when they're open, just leading to the win.
And this is your first taste of Summer League basketball. What was it like tonight for your first conference game?
I think it was just a statement, just showing that we're here, because they had us 4th place in the preseason poll, just to try to make a statement.
5 guys in double figures last night for North Dakota State. Trayson Anderson in his first career start, 14 points, 5 boards, 2 blocks. That's pretty good. And as you saw the stat line there on Travion Carson, 13 points, 7 assists, 7 rebounds, 5 steals, a block, a pair of offensive rebounds as well. That's a ball game right there, folks. And if you followed along with Bison basketball throughout the season, that stat line shouldn't surprise you so much with Travion Carson. What a pickup he's been for NDSU in the offseason, coming out of the JUCO ranks, now in his first year at the D1 level. And I've talked with Dave Richmond a lot about this. There's so much more that goes into winning basketball games than just the points. I know a lot of people, myself included, get caught up in box score watching and looking at the points to see, okay, who had a good game, who didn't have a good game. That's not always the case, and Travion Carson's a prime example of that. There's so much more that you can do to impact winning outside of scoring points, and he does that so well. And, oh, by the way, it helps when you're scoring points at the rate that Travion is as well. So good game from him. Markai Strickland with a good game as well. Damari had 10. Tay Smith off the bench had 13. Now, I'll say this about South Dakota. Don't let the score fool you too much. I still think they're a really solid team. It's just unfortunate where they're at right now at this point in the season. They have to deal with the reality of injuries. They had 7 guys that they had to roll with, and that's most likely going to be the case for the rest of the season unless they can find some people. And to make matters worse, there was a couple of more guys that went down with injuries. Now, I'm not 100% sure what exactly the severity of those injuries are, what the status is on those guys, if they can come back. But it was a tough go-around last night for USD on the health front. And you hate to see that because obviously you want to see everybody in top form in conference play night in and night out. And for South Dakota, I have to imagine there's probably going to be more games like this throughout the year where they start well and then just the lack of available players in this moment due to injuries is going to hinder them at points throughout the season. Now, I could be very wrong on that because Denver kind of proves my point wrong there. They were in action last night against Kansas City. They got the win over the Roos, 87-74, and they only played 7 guys. So head coach Tim Bergstrasser taking over his first year with the Pios, off to a good start. But again, they only played 7. Most of their lineup played 30 or 20 minutes. That's a lot of running around, but they got it done. So maybe South Dakota can do something like that down the stretch. Carson Johnson, the former Dragon, led the way, 23 points. Former Bison, Jeremiah Burke, had a double-double in the game, 16 points, 11 rebounds. He's done really well in his new home, and Zane Nelson had 17 for Denver. So NDSU and the Pios are the 2 teams in Summit League men's basketball with 1-0 records. Congratulations to them. A lot of the league will get in action later on tonight. Bison men's basketball is back in action on Saturday. We'll preview that coming up tomorrow. Again, the women start their Summit League play this evening in Oral Roberts. We'll have Jory Collins on later to preview that. Now, with the holiday and New Year's Eve last night, New Year's Day today, that means some big-time college football bowl games and college football quarterfinal games are now in full swing. Now, last night, this was interesting. The number 2 seed, Ohio State, was taking on the number 10 seed, the Miami Hurricanes, in the quarterfinals in the good old Goodyear Cotton Bowl. And what a ball game it was. Let's show you what happened, because it got pretty cool towards the end of it. Ohio State's not good in New Year's Eve games. They're 0-2 in college football games on the day before the new year, and they would struggle again off of the game. Miami's Carson Beck finding Mark Fletcher from 10 yards out. That would get the scoring started in the second quarter. 7-0 lead for the Canes. Later in the second, Julian Sayin going deep ball. Jeremiah Smith, a pickup of 60 yards for the Buckeyes. Fired up, rightfully so. 2 plays later, Sayin intercepted. Keontae Scott going all the way back the other way. 72 yards for the pick six, and it's 14-0, the underdogs in the first college football quarterfinal game of the season. Now, next Ohio State drive. 2nd and 10 from the 50. Sayin in trouble again. Akeem Mesidor finishes the job. And there goes Sayin down to the turf. Really slow start for Ohio State. Team that many thought had the best odds to win the national championship this year after a really good year last year. But it's not looking good right now. 30 seconds left in the second quarter. Sayin trying to step up. Gets the throw off. And the Bucs are now driving. 6 seconds left in the half. Ohio State would try to go for the field goal. That field goal was missed. We go to the third quarter now. Jeremiah Smith with a long reception once again. Good game from him. And finally, Ohio State back on the board after a short rushing touchdown. 14-7 lead for Miami. Now, this was interesting. Malachi Toney, a really good freshman for the Miami Hurricanes, caught the pass, fumbled, but then was able to pick it up. So Miami would go on to kick a field goal and now lead the game 17-7. Back to a 2-point possession. Under a minute left in the third. Sayin dropping back, over the shoulder throw to Smith. That's a gain of 22. Bucs on the move once again. Fourth quarter, same drive. Ohio State going for it on 4th down, and they pick it up and find the end zone. There was a flag on the play. It didn't matter. 6th career receiving touchdown in the college football playoff for Jeremiah Smith. Now, this is where things got really interesting. No one expected this. Marty Brown comes in the game for Miami, the former Bison running back, with under 2 minutes left to play in the fourth quarter. Miami trying to ice it, and he makes multiple big-time plays for Miami. This was the biggest one. Up the middle, weaving his way through traffic. Yeah, Ohio State let him score. But nonetheless, Marty Brown comes in and seals the deal for the Miami Hurricanes. And this interception would help as well. But how about the FCS kid coming in and pushing Miami to the next round? They got the semis coming up. I turned this game on after the Bison men's basketball game. I had no expectations to see Marty Brown even sniff the field. He didn't play in the first round against Texas A&M. He hadn't played in a month. Last time he touched the field was November 29th. So if you're sitting there watching the game, there's no way Marty's going to go in. This is the biggest game in Miami history in a long time. But with 2 minutes left, they throw him in. Even the announcers were caught off guard, which I thought was interesting. So congratulations there. If you remember, Marty won the Jerry Rice Award for the top freshman in the FCS while he was at NDSU. Entered the portal. He was a guy who was looking at a high 6-figure offer. He chose Miami, and now he's in the college football playoffs. So far this season, he's got 100 carries, 340 yards, 7 total touchdowns. It's been highlighted on Scott Van Pelt's show, I think, twice now this season. Now, Mark Fletcher's their workhorse, but Marty's setting himself up to be pretty good for the future here for the Miami Hurricanes. They await the winner of Ole Miss and Georgia. That's coming up later on tonight. So congratulations to Marty and Miami for getting the job done. Now, before we go to break, keeping with the theme of guys who have entered the transfer portal from the FCF's ranks and have put together a pretty solid season at the next level. Yesterday afternoon was the ReliaQuest Bowl between Iowa and Vanderbilt. Pretty good matchup. And you could also call this game the Mark Gronowski legacy game, if you wanted to. Former SDSU Jackrabbit Mark Gronowski was leading the way against Iowa against Diego Pavia, the Heisman runner-up in Vanderbilt. The game started off on an interesting note. I haven't seen this in a while. An illegal punt. The punter was past the line of scrimmage. So wipe that off the board. That sets up Iowa in a pretty good spot. The very next play, Mark Gronowski finds Reese Vanderzee in the end zone. And Iowa's off to a pretty big lead right off the jump. 21-3 at this point in the start of the second half. Diego Pavia going deep ball. He decided to wake up a little bit. Finds Trey Richardson, 75-yard touchdown for Vanderbilt. All right. Now we got a ball game a little bit. 24-10. Pavia trying to create some more magic. Able to do so. Finds a receiver in the middle of the end zone. 24-17. Seconds remaining in the third quarter. It's the same score. Gronowski with the handoff. 32-yard rush, I should say, to get Iowa in a prime spot, and then just like Gronowski, get it the rest of the way. Inches his way in for the touchdown. It's 31-17 in the fourth. And now with 2 minutes left, a big-time first down, and that would seal the deal. Mark Gronowski, a phenomenal game for the Iowa Hawkeyes. 16 for 22, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, 54 rush yards, and a rushing score in his final college game. So he finishes his storied college career with a 58-10 record. Is that good? I think so. That's not bad. Got a couple of FCS national championships under his belt, and now he's the MVP of a big-time bowl game at the FBS level. Now, that's another guy, Mark Gronowski, who was commanding a lot of money out of the transfer portal. Good chunk of change. Chose Iowa to try to get some more exposure, try to entice the NFL. And now, this past season with the Hawkeyes for Gronowski, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. There was some ups and downs. Finishes the year with 1,529 yards, 10 passing touchdowns. 7 of those came in the last 6 games. And then he had 15 touchdowns on the ground as well. But when you look at it as a whole, he and Marty are prime examples of guys going from FCS and it working out. Has that always been the case? No. Will that always be the case? No. We'll have to see. But for these two, it hasn't been too bad. All right, with that being said, we got to get to break here pretty soon. Let's take a look at what we got coming up here. Our guest lineup brought to you by Northwestern Mutual. As I mentioned, Hunter Pinke will join us at 9:35. Brad Schlossman will join us at 10. Jory Collins will join us at 10:35. We're talking football, hockey, and basketball the rest of the way. Hot Mike's just getting started. We'll be back after this. Welcome back on a cold and looks like the snow has subsided start to the new year. Sam Getzinger filling in for Dom Izzo this week. Thanks for joining us on the first show of 2026. Reminder for you, Hunter Pinke joining us at the bottom of the hour in just a couple of moments. Now, I mentioned it off of the top of the show. It's been a very newsy week for Bison football. Not all of it has been good. There's been some positive news, but there's been a lot of other news of guys entering the transfer portal looking for their next opportunity, some big-name guys as well. But yesterday, Bison fans were treated to some good news, and that was the fact that Lewis Walker is going to make his return back to the North Dakota State football program, and he will take over as the cornerbacks coach. Now, this is the second stint for Lewis. He was here back in 2022, 2023, coaching the same position group. And then he went off to be a defensive coordinator out in Monmouth, who's been playing really good football over the last couple of years. And now he's back, which is a great sign for NDSU. He replaces Will Johnson, who was phenomenal position coach for the Bison, a young coach as well. He was named the defensive backs coach at Central Florida earlier this month. So congratulations to Will and congratulations to Lewis And Lewis has been bouncing back and forth between NDSU and Monmouth a little bit throughout his coaching career. Originally from Salt Lake City, he was a defensive back for Hawaii before transitioning to Utah for his final 2 seasons. And now he's making waves in the coaching world. He actually just texted me and told me that the last couple of days has been a whirlwind. I don't doubt it. But it's a great sign that NDSU has filled that hole. That's big, especially now with the transfer portal, which opens up officially tomorrow. There is some other gaps to fill as we get ready for 2026 for North Dakota State, and to be able to have a solidified coaching staff moving into the new year, that's a great sign, and hopefully that helps out with recruiting. And if you remember in what we've been talking about earlier this week, the cornerbacks have lost a lot of talent from last season. ACA, Anthony Shidemi Alfaro, he graduated after a long career coming from the Ivy Leagues over to the Missouri Valley Football Conference. And then earlier this week, 2 starters at the position, Jalen Duffy and Jaquise Alexander, announced that they're going in to the transfer portal. Now, also, especially yesterday was a big day, but throughout the week, Eli Ozick, the kicker, announced that he's in the transfer portal. Bo Johnson announced that he's going into the transfer portal. That's a guy that's been getting some pretty big offers thrown at him from some big-time schools. We're talking Big Ten, SEC, and I had people ask me this at the game yesterday. Did you really say 7 figures when talking about guys like Bo Johnson and Toby Anene, who's also in the transfer portal? Yeah, that's a 1 with 6 zeros at the end of it. Not that I need to give you a math lesson, but that's a big chunk of change. There's no doubt. We also saw Trent Fraley enter his name into the transfer portal as well, and we'll see if there's more that are going to go in. Again, Trent Fraley was an All-American center for North Dakota State after transferring in from Marshall. Read the tea leaves there. A really good relationship with Tyler Roll, who's now the OC at Iowa State. I'll let you connect the dots on that one. We'll see if that ends up being a landing spot or not moving forward. But nonetheless, a lot of All-Americans, a lot of starters in the transfer portal for NDSU. But the good news, as I mentioned yesterday on the show, 80 guys, maybe a touch over 80 guys, have announced that they are returning from last year's team. Now, the experience may not be there up and down the board, but the talent, it looks like it's there. So I'll be very interested to see how they develop that young talent throughout 2026 as we get to the spring ball and fall camp coming up right around the corner. But again, the headlines yesterday for NDSU football, Lewis Walker returning as the cornerbacks coach for NDSU. We'll hopefully have him on the program here pretty soon, and you can hear from him and his decision to come back here to Fargo. Looking forward to that and for the upcoming college football season for all of the FCS. Of course, we're not done with that just yet. We have the national championship coming up on Monday, which we will touch on in just a couple of moments. Let's take a break. When we come back, Hunter Pinke will join us. We'll get his thoughts on the championship game coming up on Monday. Also, UND has gotten some good news as of late, mixed in with some bad. We'll talk about that as well. Hunter Pinke joins us next on Hot Mic. Welcome back on this snow-filled start to 2026. Hot Mic rolls on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, KNBN in Rapid City, also streaming on Inform.com. Happy to welcome back to the show Hunter Pinke, joining us as he does usually on Thursdays. His appearance brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. Hunter, you and I were just talking off air. You're down south, and I'm mighty jealous of you. How was the end of 2025 for you?
2025 was awesome for me. I'm down in Arizona right now. It's a cool 65 degrees.
Don't even say that, man.
I had to put on the quarter zip this morning because it's just a little chilly down here in Arizona standard. But, man, it was a good end of the year, but a lot of exciting things in 26, so I'm excited.
I've been having this debate with people on the show all throughout the week here. You a guy that stays up till midnight last night and celebrate a little bit, or are you in bed early?
I'm a Christmas in New York type of guy.
Okay.
So when the ball drops in New York, I think it's about time to call it good.
Mm-hmm.
Get your kiss if you got a significant other, and hit the sack.
Yeah, I same way. It hit 11 o'clock yesterday. I saw that go down. I'm like, all right, I guess it's time to check out for the evening, so I don't blame you. Well, it's good to have you back on. No shortage of stuff to talk about with Hunter Pinke today. Again, his appearance brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. I want to get to the college football ranks in the world and everything that's going on over there. I want to start with the national championship that's coming up on Monday between Illinois State and Montana State. Since the last time we had you on, the semifinals came and went. Are you surprised about this matchup? What do you think about how the playoffs ended up here?
I'm not super surprised. I think a lot of people from the outside looking in say, oh, Illinois State, what a magical run. This isn't the first time Illinois State's been in a national championship game in the past decade. People forget, I think it was 2015, one of those years with Carson Wentz, where they gave the Bison probably their best championship game that they ever had. I mean, it was tight down to the wire. So Brock Spack's got a great program there, and that defense keeps them in games. So that's going to be the story, I think, of the game is, can Illinois State's defense hold the potent and high-octane Montana State offense in check? If they can hold them under 25, same thing with that NDSU game. You just never know.
Right.
Maybe, a couple turnovers, a couple big explosive plays, and then we got a game.
They definitely have the offensive firepower to make a run at it. There's no doubt. They've been the underdog for weeks now, but that hasn't mattered. Like you mentioned, it didn't matter against NDSU. Didn't matter in the other two playoff games. But Montana State, they're an all-around team. They've been really impressive under Brent Vegan. They're the heavy favorites right now going into the championship. It's been a fun team to watch, and we'll see what they can do on Monday.
I think so. And you talk about a response. The people that watch that, they call it the Super Brawl with the playoff. North Dakota State, South Dakota State fans have got a few of those. But, the first time with Montana State playing Montana in the playoffs, what a cool atmosphere out in Bozeman. For them to respond the way they did, Montana made a run at them, and then they kind of buried them there in the third quarter going into the fourth. Now, can they stay on the emotional level of playing with emotion but not playing emotional? Right. And I think they've done a good job of that so far, because now there's somebody other than the yellow helmet across the way from them.
Absolutely.
Can they stay even-minded and go and finish this thing out? Because it's due. I mean, they've been good for so many years. Remember my days playing, remember Troy Anderson, Sam?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, they've been good for the past decade. Troy Anderson played linebacker, running back, and quarterback for him in his career. I mean, he did everything, but that program has been on the verge, and Vegan, a Buxton guy, fellow North Dakotan. I would love to see the Cats pull this one out.
Looking forward to that game coming up on Monday, Illinois State, Montana State on ESPN Monday evening. You and I were talking off air about the college football playoffs. Crazy game last night, Miami getting the upset. What are your thoughts on where the big boys are at right now, and do you have a favorite to win the whole thing?
Yeah, college football playoff, here's a little hot take is – I really think, number one, the scheduling's terrible for the college football playoff. I mean, I get the New Year's Day and the New Year's Eve, but it gets dragged out way too much. I feel like we've been waiting for these games for way too long. Miami's really tough though. The Bain kid, really, really impressive. His draft stock is flying through. That defense is going to keep them in a lot of games. But the game that I'm most looking forward to is that 4-5 matchup, Oregon versus Texas Tech. It's like, what does Texas Tech really have? They really haven't played a big-time team all year. That defense is the number one rush defense in the country. Oregon can run the ball. So I think that's going to be the matchup to watch, is like, if Oregon can establish their run game, I think they're going to have a lot of success, but Texas Tech, man, it's one of the best defenses in the country. I think they've got like 9 new guys on that defense. The transfer portal was good to them. So I think that's going to be a really exciting game. And then you've got a big-time matchup with Ole Miss and Georgia that I'm really looking forward to. Gunnar Stockton, can he lead the Bulls? Man, it seems like Kirby Smart is always good in big games unless he's playing Alabama. Which maybe he's got over the hurdle there in the SEC championship. But man, that Ole Miss Georgia game I think is going to be a bloodbath.
No doubt about that. Texas Tech and Oregon start 11 o'clock right after this program is done. They'll start at 11 on ESPN. Alabama, Indiana at 3 on ESPN, and then Ole Miss and Georgia at 7 on ESPN, and they take on the winner of Miami. You had Cole Wisniewski on your podcast not too long ago. You and Dom talked about that the last time you were on. He's on Texas Tech now. They had Jacob Rodriguez, who many thought would be in the Heisman conversation. Wasn't one of the finalists to make it there, but as you mentioned, they got good facilities there as well. That's an impressive team. I would not be surprised to see Texas Tech make a solid run.
I like Tech. You know, it's interesting. Wiz has become a friend, and it was interesting talking to him off air of the podcast. But you know, his stats are good this year, but they're not great. They're not eye popping. But man, turn on the film. It's like not many people get to his level playing safety.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to have 3 or 4 of his defensive linemen are going to get drafted. Like you said, Jacob Rodriguez was in the Heisman talk at linebacker. He just kind of makes sure nothing gets loose on the back end, but that defense is big time. So I'm cheering for the Red Raiders. Plus Lubbock. I mean, how can you not cheer for Lubbock? It's just like you got Austin and Dallas and all these big cities in Texas. Come on, give some love to Lubbock.
Absolutely. I'm on the same boat with you. I like Texas Tech. I like what they bring to the table. Got a good quarterback over there too. So we'll see what they can do in their college football quarterfinal game that's coming up here in less than a little over an hour or so. Now, it's a fitting transition. Cole Wisniewski, and we'll transition this into our next topic. He went into the portal, found a home at Texas Tech. We've been talking all week about the Bison losing guys to the transfer portal, UND losing guys to the transfer portal. Everybody's losing guys to the transfer portal, which officially opens up on Friday. When you look at it as a whole, as a former athlete, can you believe that this is where things are at in the transfer portal era right now? When you're talking about the dollar amount that's being thrown out, early communication from teams, this is the Wild West. It still seems like.
Yeah, and it's got to get some reins put on it. I mean, it like you said, it's just wild right now. It's a wild horse just running free.
Yep.
It's got to put some reins on it. Until collective bargaining is had on the collegiate level, there's just not going to be a solution, I don't think. Here's what I think a really simple way to help some of these FCS programs that a lot of the listeners care about up in the Dakotas is that I don't like the fact that the programs that develop, that find these kids, that believe in them, that give them an opportunity, they put so much time and effort and dollars into the development, and then they get nothing back when these kids go and elevate to another level.
Yeah.
Let's just use the Brown kid,
Marty Brown,
the running back.
Yep, Marty Brown.
Exactly. Marty Brown had a good game last night. He should get to go to the next level and go and play in the ACC and play in the college football playoff. That's an unbelievable experience, and it's also some life-changing money in the NIL world.
Yeah.
But why doesn't Miami pay NDSU a transfer fee of some sort? Like, hey, you developed this kid, you found this kid, we got to see this kid because of the success of your program. We're going to pay a fee of, name your number, $100,000, $200,000 to North Dakota State to help them in their NIL.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
How do we run that up the flagpole? I like that idea.
That seems like a simple thing where the FBS programs, they get the guy, right? They improve their team.
They go out and find them.
While still allowing some flexibility and some power to these FCS programs that are just getting stripped of talented players.
I think you got to make a run at the commissioner of this thing. I like where your head's at with all of this. It brings up a good point. And again, the transfer portal will open up on Friday. We'll see where it goes. Now, with all the news of guys that are leaving, there has been good news for teams in the Dakota of a lot of guys that are coming back with your UND Fighting Hawks. Some big news recently. Jerry Kaminsky, the quarterback, announces he's coming back. And then you also got Lance Rucker, who announced he's coming back, which is huge for Eric Schmidt and his squad.
Massive. Keep it really, really simple, Sam. When you look at the NFL, who are the highest paid players in the NFL? Number one, quarterbacks. and on the defense, pass rushers.
Yep.
Right? Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, all those type of guys. Those are the two most important. Maybe throw an offensive tackle as well to protect the blind side.
Yep.
But, I mean, those two guys were priority 1 and priority 2 for North Dakota, and they got both of them. So it's really going to help. Rucker, I think, has a chance to be the best player in the country next year. I mean, when you watch the Tennessee Tech tape, you look and he just jumps off the tape. So really excited about that. And then Jerry Kaminsky, man, people forget this was his first year starting.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, year 2, I'm really excited. A lot of time, look at Patrick Mahomes, look at Josh Allen, look at their rookie year in the NFL, and then look at their second year. Man, just time in the system and comfortability, I think is going to be huge for Jerry. So I'm really excited to see what those guys can do.
Absolutely. Looking forward to seeing what UND can do in 2026, the new year, spring ball coming right around the corner. Hunter, I appreciate you coming on. It's been a lot of fun to chat with you. Enjoy the new year. What do you got coming up? I imagine you got a busy schedule, huh?
I got my school tour coming up here,
Nice.
starting January 5th. Going to be in the Dakotas, get around to the schools. That's my favorite age group to work with is high school kids. I'm still a young guy, Sam. Man, I'm 28 years old, so I can still relate a little bit with these high school kids and hopefully go make an impact here starting off the year right.
That's awesome. Well, best of luck on that tour. We look forward to hearing you in the future on the show.
All right. Have a good one, Sam. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Man.
Hunter Pinke joining us on this Thursday morning. Brings up some great points. There's no doubt about that. Transfer portal, it's an interesting world. That would be pretty neat if you can get something back from the team that's going to grab your players. Is that going to happen? I don't know. We'll have to see. But there should be some raids. Yeah, Eric says no. I don't think that would ever happen. No one wants to give up their money like that and give it to another team, but I like the idea. I like where his head's at on that. I think that would be beneficial for those involved in what is a tough situation. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, got an update on the Wild and the Wolves. They were in action last night. It did not go well. A reminder for you to start hour number 2. We're talking hockey with Brad Schlossman, and we'll preview NDSU women's basketball back in action tonight against Oral Roberts. It's coming up when Hot Mike returns. All right, welcome back. Hot Mike on this Thursday morning, first show of 2026. Big thank you to Hunter Pinke for joining us, talking about everything going on in college football. UND getting some guys back. College football playoffs are in action. We'll remind you of some of the games coming up this evening later on in the show. Also, the wild world of the transfer portal that opens up officially tomorrow. We'll keep you updated on if there's any news and guys announcing where they're going or if guys are entering the portal looking for their next opportunity. So we'll get to that as the rest of the week rolls on. I promised a little Wolves and Wild update, both of them in action last night on New Year's Eve. It did not go well for either side. Let's take a look at how things went down. We'll start with the Wild. Long road trip for them, thanks to the World Junior Championship taking over their home barn, Grand Casino Arena. Out on the West Coast, they had San Jose last night, or yesterday afternoon, I should say. Entering yesterday, the Wild had a 2-game win streak. They were a wagon, in my opinion. And they started the game looking like they were going to continue that wagon. Vladimir Tarasenko with a nifty wrist shot. Thought it hit the crossbar, but it actually crossed the goal line, and the Wild would go up 1-0 at that point. Later on in the second period, with the Wild still leading, Macklin Celebrini, one of the youngest top stars in the NHL, with a good feed ahead, and just like that, the Sharks are on the board, and we're tied at 1. Later on in the second, Dmitry Orlov over to Jeff Skinner. He beats it through all of the traffic, and the wrister gets past Jesper Wallstedt, the stud goaltender for the Minnesota Wild. 2-1 lead for the Sharks at that point yesterday. In the third, Celebrini gives the puck away. Matt Zuccarello with the interception from that high slot, and he fires it in. Zuccarello would tie the game up at 3 apiece. So we would go to a shootout. I said it earlier in the week. I love shootouts. Here's Celebrini once again, coming down for San Jose. That's a good shot. Past Wallstedt on the far side. And San Jose would get the first goal of the shootout yesterday. Matt Boldy would have an opportunity to get the equalizer in the shootout. Boldy's been on an absolute tear. But Yaroslav Askarov, that's a fun name to say, would stop it. The Wild still down 1-0 in the shootout. That would give William Eklund a chance for the Sharks to win it. And he would go on and do so. So Minnesota would fall in the game. They dropped their record to 24-10-7. There are silver linings to this. It wasn't all bad. Yeah, it was a shootout loss. But they get a point. That's big. The other part to the silver lining here, Dallas lost last night. And as we've talked about, the NHL right now and where they are in the standings, Minnesota, Dallas, Colorado, top 3 teams in the league are also the top 3 teams in the Central. Now, Colorado, they beat the doors off of St. Louis 6-1 last night, so they get a couple of points. But Minnesota moving up in the standings just an inch. They're inching towards Dallas. They're gaining some ground. Colorado has a substantial lead in the points category in the standings, 67 already on the season. Dallas with 57, Minnesota Wild with 55. I thought about making a 6-7 joke. I'll refrain. I'll refrain for all the kids that are back home watching the program this morning. So, not the greatest result for Minnesota, but also not the end of the world. Now, the Timberwolves were at it yesterday as well. Back in action last night. They had a dominant win against Chicago earlier in the week. Yesterday, taking on Atlanta in a homecoming for Anthony Edwards. And if you remember, or if you missed our conversation with Alec Osmus yesterday, Alec Osmus, of course, from KSBTP down in the Twin Cities, the key word to describe the Minnesota Timberwolves as of late was inconsistency. And that definitely showed yesterday. Atlanta came out and just put the pedal to the metal on the Minnesota Timberwolves, never really gave them a chance to breathe. 126-102 was the final score. Atlanta put up 33 in the first, 37 in the second. And Minnesota really had no answer. A lot of highlights from last night from the Atlanta Hawks. They played a really good game. The Wolves are now 21-13. They're 1-3 in their last 4. And it's just the consistency thing right now. It just has not been working for the Minnesota Timberwolves. This stretch has not been the greatest. Lost to the Nuggets on Christmas night. Lost to Brooklyn that weekend, this past weekend. Wasn't a good effort. Did get the win against Chicago. Looked like their old selves a little bit. And now this last night against the Atlanta Hawks. Not the greatest. They're back at it on Saturday. They continue their road stretch. They're down in Miami to take on the Heat. So that's the update on the Wolves and Wild from last night. Not all good news. Some okay news for the Wild. All right, let's take a break. Hour number 2 right around the corner. We're talking hockey with our guy Brad Schlossman. World Junior Championships, UND hockey, the Spangler Cup as well. A lot to get to with him. Brad Schlossman joins us next on Hot Mic. Back for hour number 2. Excited to talk some hockey as we start the second hour to open up the new year of 2026. Let's welcome in Brad Schlossman, who's been the busiest man in show business, if you will, as of late, doing a lot of work covering everything that's going on in the game of amateur hockey, World Junior Championships, UND right around the corner, Spangler Cup as well, in full swing. Brad, first of all, you're down in the Twin Cities. Are you putting on the miles while all these tournaments are going on?
Yeah, I've been going back and forth a little bit from Mariucci to the XL Center. U.S. and Canada are playing at 2 different venues. Yep. And, of course, the organizers overlapped all their games. So a lot of people here are just hustling, trying to get to both games as much as they can. It's not very easy, but yeah, they'll be coming back shortly to cover North Dakota Mercyhurst. But I don't think I was among the luckiest of us all who were over in Switzerland for the in Davos watching the Spengler Cup. That seemed like one unbelievable tournament. It was fun to follow from afar.
We'll get to that in just a little bit. Again, World Junior Championships going on in the Twin Cities. I know that's I was back home last week. That's the big ticket item that everybody wants to get their hands on, to go to a USA game, go to a Canada game. I gave an update earlier on in the week about what was going on in this tournament and kind of have neglected over the last couple of days. So I'll let you do the honors to get us caught up on where we're at. Let's get an update on the Americans and what's been going on with them. 3-0-1. We got the quarterfinals coming up right around the corner. USA, they beat Germany. They played Switzerland and Slovakia close and then got hammered by Sweden. What have you seen from USA over this tournament?
Yeah, that was a big game yesterday because it kind of is setting up the quarterfinal bracket. And now we're seeing where they're at. And the U.S. is going to have to play a tough matchup against Finland right away in the quarterfinals. It's been a decent start for the U.S., but I don't know if we expected this to be a super dominant American team like the last couple of years. They've showed some flashes that, they've had some injuries to some really key pieces. Cole Hudson on the back end. He got hurt a couple of games ago and hasn't been back. It sounds like he's going to be back, though, for the Finland game. So that's big.
Okay.
Max Plant, who might be the front runner for the Hobie Baker Award at this point in the season, he was hurt and missed the last game against Sweden. And Coach Bob Motzko indicated he is not optimistic about Max Plant being back. So those are some injuries that are coming about right now. U.S. needs to defend a little better. I think that's the big issue right now. The United States is giving up way too many goals.
Yeah, they gave up 6 yesterday in the loss to Sweden. I think a lot of casual fans that may just want to see Team USA and cheer for the country will look at that score and be like, well, what's going on? Well, the reality is that Sweden's pretty good, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of really high-end top 10 type draft picks. So this is a very good Sweden team. I think that's probably when you say what happens, it's entirely possible Sweden's just a better team than the U.S. So we'll see where the bracket play goes now. I feel like for the most part of this tournament, no one's really jumped out as way more dominant than anyone else. Canada was supposed to be that team. And the first 2 games were not overly impressive from Canada. Now, all of a sudden, the last 2 games, Canada has started to really score a ton of goals. And you're like, okay, well, this is kind of what we expected Canada to look like in this tournament. So Canada's definitely the favorite, but I feel like some of the bottom countries are better than they usually are.
Yeah.
Some of the top countries maybe aren't quite as dominant. So it's been a little bit of a unpredictable World Juniors.
So what you're saying is that gap that's been there forever, is that starting to close a little bit?
This year it is, to me. Like Latvia, a team that maybe was a bit overlooked. Latvia's been pushing teams, took Canada to overtime. Canada beat Latvia 2-1. Both goals were power play goals. Latvia has a probable top 10 pick on its back end in Albert Smits, and he's been really good. And they have some other good players up front. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. Latvia gets Sweden in the quarterfinal now. And but I really think the big matchup that everyone's going to look forward to internationally as well is the United States and Finland. That's just has potential to be a terrific matchup. And I have no idea who's going to take that one. But if the U.S. and Canada win on Friday, we may get we'll get a U.S.-Canada semifinal on Sunday night, and the atmosphere in that game would be pretty unbelievable.
Oh, that's going to be unreal. And as you mentioned, USA has Finland to open up the quarterfinal round, and that's another outcome from the game yesterday against Sweden. Now they have to go up against a good Finland team. What's the update that you can give us on Finland, as it's a win or go home now the rest of the way?
Yeah, Finland's been pretty good. Not overly flashy team, but they're just solid. And, Finland went into that game against Canada last night with a chance to still win that pool. Canada ends up coming away with a win. So U.S. gets Finland. That's not. It's a rematch of the gold medal game from last year.
Yeah.
That U.S. won in overtime. So should be a great matchup.
Sweden, Latvia, Czechia, Switzerland, which, by the way, the Czechs had a wild goal just the other day that between the legs.
Yeah.
Were you there for that?
I was, yeah.
that was something else.
Goes between his legs in overtime for a game winner, and I guess we see why he's a top 15 NHL pick.
That makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, the Czechs look good. The Czechs might be like, I feel like they're kind of getting overlooked right now. They look pretty good. I'm curious to see if they can make a run.
That's another team that over the years, especially at the junior level here, they've been a team that's closing the gap to the USA and Canada, I feel like.
Yeah, they've had some big wins over the U.S. at the World Juniors in the last 10 years.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. Again, the other quarterfinals coming up soon: United States, Finland, Canada, and Slovakia. You mentioned Canada, and I know you've been following them throughout this tournament. Started off slow, and now are finding their groove. Has there been something that you've noticed that has been a reason for that at all?
I think, the first couple games, it was really one line that was producing for Canada. And now all of a sudden we're starting to see all the lines chip in offensively. So I think that's been a big deal. The power play's been improved, and there are just so many scoring threats. Canada hasn't been great defensively, and I'm starting to wonder if that's even going to matter, because they are just outscoring everyone at such a high rates. They produce so much offense. And there's so many different players that can score, and right now that's what's happening with the Canadians.
All right, we'll see what they can do moving forward. I want to get an update from you on all of the UND guys that are in this tournament. It seems like every time I turn around and see a video, it's of Will Zellers scoring a goal. He's been phenomenal, and there's been good performances up and down from the Fighting Hawks guys that are in this big time tournament.
Yeah, for sure. Will Zellers is a guy who wasn't even on this team when they announced the roster. They came back a week later and said, actually, we're going to invite you to camp after all. And now all of a sudden he's tied as the leading goal scorer in the entire tournament. He's, I think, 1 point off of being the leading overall scorer in the tournament. He's just had an incredible run. He's scored in every single game for the U.S., and that's what we've seen him do at UND. He's been a goal scorer for UND, and that's what he was for Green Bay last year in the USHL. That's what he was at Chaddock. So he's just kind of doing what he's done his entire career, and it's just impressive that as the levels go up, he just keeps finding ways to score. And so he's been, just a really key piece to that U.S. team. On the back end, EJ Emery was scratched in the first game. He didn't play. He's come in the lineup, and I mentioned how U.S. has given up way too many goals. Emery's been on the ice for about 40 minutes for the U.S., and their opponents have not scored with Emery on the ice yet in this tournament.
That's good news.
He's been one of those anchors defensively. And then over with Canada, Cole Reshny, he's playing a third, fourth line role for the Canadians. He's also on the top power play unit. He's taken some important draws for that team. So he's killing penalties. They're using him in all sorts of situations, which is what UND has done as well. They've learned that he's not just an offensive player. Maybe they knew that coming in. I think maybe I didn't realize he was so good in all those other areas. I'm guessing the coaches did. But yeah, he's definitely played really well, scored a big goal for them in that game against Latvia, that 2-1 win in overtime. He had the regulation goal. And then Keaton Verhoff has gotten into the play for Canada now. He's, he was scratched his first two games, played the last two games. He had an assist about 9 minutes into his first game. Last night he didn't play as much as he did in the first game. So we'll see if he keeps getting in. He's pretty young. He is, right away, a lot of people went, why is Keaton Verhoff not in? Why is he not playing? Part of it is that, he's the sixth youngest defenseman Canada's ever taken to the World Juniors.
Yeah.
It's very rare for a player of his age to make the team, especially on the back end. So he's working to stay in the lineup, and there's some pretty significant competition. We'll see if he can get back in for the quarterfinal game.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. It's been fun to watch those guys and see what they do, and hopefully they can carry their stellar play into the back half of the UND season, which we'll get into in just a second. Do you got a couple more minutes, Brad? I know you're a busy guy. Okay, well,
sure.
Let's break. When we come back, I want to chat about UND, getting ready for the second half of the season. We'll also do a recap of the Spengler Cup as well. That's coming up when Hot Mike returns after this. Welcome back to Hot Mike on WDAY Extra, continuing our conversation with Brad Schlossman from the Grand Forks Herald about all that's going on in the world of hockey. Just got a good update on the World Junior Championships. UND in action this weekend. We'll get to that in a second. I want to talk about the Spengler Cup, and I know there's been a lot of people that have come up and asked me, and I'll be quite honest, I wasn't extremely familiar with what this tournament is. Come to find out, it is the longest running hockey tournament, 97th running of this thing. Is that correct? What is the Spengler Cup and how did we do in it?
Yeah, so the HC Davos is the host team, and they host it every year in an incredibly cool building that they play in. And they invite 5 other teams. And it's professional teams from around Europe. And they usually invite a Canadian all-star team too as well, of guys who they usually make it up of players who are playing pro in Europe and maybe some American Hockey League players that will come over for it. I know Mike Snee from College Hockey Inc. went over to Davos and tried to lobby like, hey, we'll put together a college all-star team to come over and play in this tournament. And I think right away they were a little bit skeptical. Yeah. And they thought this is, the pro teams are going to just hammer the college teams. But, after some work, he finally was able to secure an invite for this year. And they put together, essentially an all-star team from around the country. They couldn't use, of course, World Junior players, but a lot of some older players. They have at least one player from all 6 conferences. They went over there. If you looked at the gambling odds before the tournament, they were picked to be by far the worst team there. I think there was a lot of nervousness over in Europe. Like, we hope they're at least competitive. They did not expect them to win, but they said, can they please at least be competitive? And then they go out and were extremely competitive in game 1 against Team Canada. They beat Davos in game 2. Davos is in first place in the Swiss League by 10 points right now. They're one of the best teams in Europe. And then they go and beat a team from Prague, who's one of the defending regular season champs in the Czech League. And it's fascinating to read the coverage from over there, because a lot of the people in Europe are just really baffled how these students are coming over there and beating these professional teams. And they're starting to question, are our leagues not as good as we thought? Right. Or is college hockey way better than we realize? And so over in Europe, this is a really big story that these college kids are going over there. The fans really embraced them. They were shocked at how well they were doing. They really loved watching the style they played because they were entertaining. They played fast. They played skilled. And they became kind of a hit there. And in the pro shop, they're selling all 6 teams gear. They sold out of the U.S. Collegiate Selects gear there. That was the only team they sold out of. All these fans wanted the gear. The players walking around town, everyone wants photos with them and autographs. And it was just a incredible performance by those guys. And I think when they went over there, they said, the people who organized the thing said, hopefully they play well enough that they can get an invite back. Well, I think they shattered everyone's expectations for what they were able to do there. This is a team that they practiced 3 times, and then they went and played these pro teams with, Davos had, 1,800 NHL games on that roster. Like, they're these loaded teams, and, they went and beat them, and I think everyone's just kind of surprised by how well they did.
That's an unbelievable story. Really cool to see what they were able to do across the pond. And there's a couple of UND guys on that selects team, wasn't there?
Yeah, Jake Livanovich and Abram Wiebe were on the back end there, and the head coach, Guy Godowski, he played those 2 a lot. It was those two and Eric Polkamp from Denver, a Brainerd kid. They were getting thrown out there all the time. They played extremely well. There were probably some pro teams in Europe that were thinking, how can we get these guys on our back end as soon as possible? So, those guys certainly, if pro teams were watching, they helped their stock by the way they played in that tournament. And it was, hearing from Jake Livanovich from when he was over there. I talked to him one day and he said that the experience was just incredible. He said one of the best life experiences he's had in the hockey world. So it was great to hear that the guys enjoyed it as much as the fans enjoyed watching them.
That's super cool. That's one of the best stories in hockey going on right now, and neat. I'll be paying way more attention to that now moving forward than I did this year, knowing that that's the case. That's pretty cool. A couple of minutes left here with our guy Brad talking about hockey here. Let's transition over to UND before we let you get out the door. I know you got a busy weekend. It's been a really good first half of the season. Top of the NCHC right now, 14-4. Have Mercyhurst this weekend. As you mentioned, there's a lot of guys that are at the World Junior Championships, some at the Spangler Cup. It's going to be a pretty short bench this weekend, isn't it?
It is. Everyone who's healthy is going to be in the lineup. They've practiced this week with 4 defensemen, and with a bunch of guys gone, Keaton Verhoff and EJ Emery are at the World Juniors. Livanovich and Weeb are in Switzerland. They've got some guys up front. Cole Reshny and Will Zellers have been 2 of their best players. They're going to be gone this weekend. Right now, Abram Weeb and Jake Livanovich are in the process of their long travels from Switzerland back to the United States. And if everything goes well, they should be back in Grand Forks and available to play. Okay. We'll see what energy levels they have as they have played a lot of games in a short amount of time in Switzerland and then a long travel day. But I think they're hoping those guys will be in the lineup tomorrow night, straight off the plane from Switzerland.
Wow. That's going to be interesting.
So UND is going to have an interesting lineup, a lot of guys in different spots. The special teams units, if you think about that, Will Zellers and Cole Reshny and Keaton Verhoff, these guys are all power play guys. And so the power play units are going to look completely different than what we're used to seeing. And we'll see. This team has been pretty adaptable this year, though. They won several games going into break, and they were missing Ellis Rickwood for some of those games. Yeah. Then the last weekend they were missing, Reshny and Verhoff because they had to take off to Canada's camp early, and they still found ways to win. So this team has found ways without full lineups this season.
Quickly before we let you go, Mercyhurst, any good? How are they doing this year?
Mercyhurst is struggling big time. They've dealt with. We're talking about guys who have injuries and absences for UND. One team that's not going to feel bad for them is Mercyhurst. Yeah. Their last game before the break, they were missing 12 guys.
Wow.
So an incredible wave of injury. They had 10 forwards. 2 of them were defensemen. Mercyhurst has not won a game yet this season. They're 0-15-1. 5 of those forwards are coming back. 5 of those players are coming back this weekend. So they will finally have a full lineup. But just an incredible wave of injuries for that team this year. And, they were looking to – they struggled last year. They were hoping to be a little bit better this year. But when you're missing 12 guys, good luck.
Yeah, absolutely. And they got nothing to lose going into the Ralph this weekend. We'll see what's going on. I know you got a long road trip ahead of you and a lot of hockey to cover over the next couple of weeks. I appreciate you for taking some time and hopping on the program this morning.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sam.
Absolutely. There he goes, Brad Schlossman from the Grand Forks Herald joining us on this, what day is it today? Thursday morning. Great to catch up with him and get an update on what's going on in the world of amateur hockey. A lot of fun there. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to transition over to basketball. NDSU women's basketball opens up Summit League play tonight. Head coach Jory Collins joins us next. Preview this series to open up the conference part of the schedule. Hot Mic continues after this. Welcome back on this cold and now snowy once again Tuesday morning. Hot Mike continues on. Happy to talk some basketball here on the program as we start the new year, 2026. Let's welcome in Jory Collins, the head coach of North Dakota State women's basketball, who's down in Tulsa getting ready for the Summit League opener against Oral Roberts. Tonight at 7 is when it tips off. You can watch it on the Summit League Network. Coach, thanks for taking some time. Happy New Year to you. How is the travel down?
Happy New Year, Sam. Thanks for having me. It was fine. We've been a little bit hit or miss early in the year with our travel stuff, and the last couple trips we've taken have been pretty smooth, so we're grateful for that.
Do you guys get the chance to celebrate the new year at all, or was it go straight to your rooms and get ready for the day?
10:30 curfew, go to bed. Got a game the next day.
Don't blame you.
Hopefully we can play well this weekend, and we can get home at a decent time Saturday evening, and they can go celebrate the new year then.
There you go. Well, let's talk about your program here, 11-2, going into the next step of the schedule, and of course that includes a 9-game win streak. I know you told us after the game the most important one is the next one, but just to look back at how the first stretch of the season went and how your team handled the competition and also the travel. What do you take away from that?
Yeah, I was just really proud of our group. You came in and I thought we had a good schedule. It probably wasn't as challenging as last year's schedule. We played really good teams last year, and we had some pretty crazy travel to go along with that. This year, we did go to both coasts. I mean, we had to, go to Florida, go to California. I thought the thing I liked most about our team this year is just there was a maturity, Sam, in the travel and business-like approach, and just the willingness to want to go to some cool places, but also get better as a basketball team when we were there. And I feel like our group is maturing as we've had a core group of players here be together for a while. And I think that showed up in our non-conference play of just putting in your work, trusting each other, and getting the job done.
It's definitely been fun to watch them as they went throughout the non-conference stretch, and now you got Summit League play. Spoke with Dave about this earlier in the week and some of his players about it. Does mindset change at all when you go into conference play or not so much? I mean, it's just basketball. You stick to what you do best.
Yeah, I think that's a great question for some individual players. I can tell you as a coaching staff, we prepare for every single team we play the exact same way. When the schedule allows it, we stick to the same routine of scouting and shoot-arounds and film time and lifting time, and you just go into the next one. Now, in the back of your mind, hey, we're competing for a regular season conference championship starting today, of course. That adds a little element to it that's a little bit different in the non-con. In the non-con, you're trying to develop your identity. You're trying to establish roles. You're trying to see what you got. So when you get to this point, you can put your best foot forward starting in conference play. So there's definitely a little bit of change. But as far as the basketball goes, it's familiar opponents now. You be a little bit more in depth with your scouting reports because you know the personnel, you know the style of play. So that's all amped up just a little bit.
We've talked about it throughout the week. Of course, you got Oral Roberts coming up tonight, 7 o'clock, to open up Summit League play. Denver on Saturday. We've talked about how this is a difficult road trip, one of the hardest for really any Summit League team to make. Can you shed some light on why that is and why it's tough to play in those places?
Well, this one just happens to be, Oral Roberts has been very good, the last several years. And anytime you're going to play a really good team on the road, that's going to be a difficult game regardless. This just happens to be one of the trips here where you're flying in between games on a one-day prep. And so you're spending a lot of time traveling the day before. We practiced at 9 o'clock in the morning yesterday, left for the airport at 11-something, got here at 9-something at night. So that's a full 12, 13-hour day of basketball practice, travel, get to your hotel room. And luckily we don't play till 7 tonight, so got a chance to sleep in. But tomorrow is turn around and film and scout in the morning, get on the airplane, fly to Denver, go practice, and then play at noon. Those are just quick turnarounds. And everybody's got to do it. So it's all, it is what it is. It's just the last couple of years we've been able to play better in Denver. Haven't got it done at Oral Roberts yet. I know our players are looking forward to getting that done.
What's the scouting report on Oral Roberts as we get ready for the game tonight?
Yeah, they lost a couple players last year, but have added some really talented players. Sophie, new head coach, but has been in that program for a long time and in that system for a long time. So style of play, I think, is still very relevant in what they do. Obviously, Oglesby's been a terrific scorer in this league her entire career. And just, doesn't look the part. She's a little bit undersized, a smaller player playing the 4, but she's so skilled, so crafty. They brought in a transfer, a high-level Division II kid. Anna Trusty is really filling it up for them. And then they're breaking in some bigs. They got freshman bigs that I think are very talented, but obviously youthful there. So they're finding their mix on that end. It's still the same, going to be transition offense, going to try to turn you over, going to play fast. They score a lot of points. If we can take care of the basketball, then we got a chance to try to score in the half court, like always against these guys. It'll be a battle there, though.
All right, we'll see how that goes. Oral Roberts on the schedule, 7 o'clock, Summit League Network. If you want to watch that later on this evening, a couple of minutes left with Jory Collins. Again, his appearance brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. I want to talk about some of your players as we get ready for conference play. Of course, in the last non-conference game of the season against St. Mary's, had the opportunity to get a lot of people out on the floor and give them some quality minutes. You and I have talked about it, especially earlier this week. Just the thoughts on bench production this year. Of course, Carrington Ash has been really good. Abby Graham coming off of the bench. Lily Niebuhr had a good game on Monday. What can you say about those girls who are subbing in for the starters?
Yeah, I think they played great the other night and have had some big games. I think against UTRGV, I think our bench probably won us that game, just coming in and providing a big spark the day after a big overtime, mentally exhausting game against Pepperdine. We needed our bench to show up the next day, and they did and delivered. The St. Mary's game is what it is. That's one you get to just get your mind back right and get ready for conference play. And we'd hoped we'd play well enough to get a lot of people in the game, and we're able to do that. And it's hard when you're a role player like that. Some games it's 5 minutes, some games it's 25 minutes. Depending on foul trouble or how the game's going. And for you to be able to be ready at all times when your number's called takes a lot of maturity and some mental toughness on just being aware and being ready. And I think our kids are all developing that. We've had some kids have great games off the bench. We've had some days that weren't right. That consistency is something you're always striving for on getting some bench production when you need it.
Avery Coonan is not surprised anybody with what she's been able to do this year. I think the number is up to 20 straight game in double figures. It's been really impressive to watch what she's been doing this season. And I remember a point last year when you told us that she's a player that could average a double-double, and now she seems like she's getting there. What's the growth that you've seen from her, and what do you think her mindset or confidence is going to be, knowing that she's one of the top dogs in the conference and teams are going to be keeping an eye out for her?
Yeah, I think it's, again, just been a maturation process for Avery, and I think a confidence one. Coming in, little smaller town, not a big AAU program, physicality. What can I do at this level? How do I become who I can be? She's really worked hard in the weight room, Sam, and has gotten so much stronger. I think we laughed a few weeks ago. One of her visit picture popped up, and just how, thin and kind of skinny and young. She just looked like a little young high school girl. And, now she just looks like such a physical athlete out there on the floor, runs and jumps so well. But she's worked on her game, and she's committed to it. And I think all that hard work's paying off. And now you're starting to see her just believe and know that, hey, I can go out here and I can get a lot of things done for our team. She showed that time and time again at the end of last year, and then obviously has been really consistent for us this year.
Joshie Schiller is another player that has Summit League experience coming into the program, and she has just been lights out throughout the season. How is she meshed with the team in a new setting, and how nice is it to have that experience from a different perspective come into your team?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I mean, she's fit in seamlessly. Just about as smooth as you could ever ask for, adding another point guard or combo guard to a group that's already had, Molly and Marissa. I think we all were like, hey, man, what's this going to look like with all those three together? And it's been absolutely great. Sometimes she's a point guard, sometimes she's off the ball. What she's done is really just add another dynamic ball handler and pressure defender for our team, Sam, and her ability to, facilitate, get us in stuff. At the same time, she's made some huge plays.
Yeah.
Just late in games, when we've had some close ones, she's a winner. I've talked about that. And there's always those times in those games where she just either going to get a steal, going to get an and one, going to get to the free throw line. Big shots and big moments. Hit a big three out in California in the corner. Hadn't been shooting the three great, but stepped into a big one in the corner. Just a lot of not game winning, but game impacting plays that she makes, pretty regularly for us.
You guys got the game 7 o'clock later on tonight. What does the rest of the day look like? You're on the road. How do you keep everybody focused with this long break until tip off?
Yeah, we had got to let him sleep in a little bit this morning. Had to get up and eat breakfast before 10. We have film, stretch, some smoothies coming at 12:30, Sam. Then we'll watch some film. Then we'll go to shoot around from 1:30 to 2:30. And then it's back and really just got a couple hours getting your mind right and get focused up to head to the gym. So they're long days when you don't play till 7 and you're there the night before. It's also nice out. I'm encouraging them all to go outside and get a walk in and get some sun. So you keep yourself busy. They're not in school right now, so it's not like there's a lot of homework to do either.
Right.
So just staying sharp and hopefully they're checking those scouting reports out too.
Oh, must be nice to be in a part of the world with some nice weather. You guys are in for a treat when you come back here. We got dumped with some snow and the temperature's still cold. So look forward to that when you're on your way back. We had Dave on the show earlier this week. I asked him his thoughts about your program. He had a lot of nice things to say. I'll let you have the opportunity to return the favor. Men's basketball got their first conference win yesterday. What do you think about Dave's squad this season and just where North Dakota State basketball is at right now?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't be happier for Dave and his staff and his team. I think Dave does things the right way. I think he's a man of integrity and he coaches his team that way. And I think I was talking to his dad actually yesterday at their shoot around, and we were both just excited for, coming into the year, they'd lost some players and it didn't maybe feel like they were as big as they had been in the past and just weren't quite sure, what they had. And to watch them go into their non-conference play and develop their identity, I think this is one of the tougher teams, maybe even going back to 21, 22, where they got some dogs out there this year. And that shows up. I couldn't be happier for them, the success they're having. I think it's going to be a fun winter in the Shack, Sam. I mean,
I think so.
Week you're going to have some really good basketball. I'm excited about, how our team is going to be playing. I'm just as excited for how our men's team is going to be playing too.
Absolutely. If you haven't gone out or if you haven't got on the train following both men's and women's basketball teams yet, be sure to do so. It's going to be a lot of fun as we go down the conference stretch. Best of luck tonight. Thanks for coming on. Happy New Year to you, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds good, Sam. Thank you.
Absolutely. Jory Collins joining us from Tulsa, Oklahoma, as he gets ready for the Summit League season opener against Oral Roberts in a matchup that has been very tough whenever NDSU goes down to ORU. They just haven't gotten the job done as of recently, hoping this year is the year. The gals on the team know it, and they want to get the win. And, of course, they got Denver coming up on Saturday. As you heard Jory mention, it's a tough road trip with the type of travel that they have to do on a quick turnaround. Now, was scrolling Twitter before, and again, before we get to what I'm about to say next, I want to say thank you to Jory, and of course, his appearance is always brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. Was scrolling Twitter earlier on this morning, and Dom tweeted this out, and it's a pretty neat deal. Of course, NDSU with their dominant start to the season. Some bracketology at the midway point has come out, and if you look towards the bottom of your screen, there you see North Dakota State as an 11 seed. That's pretty impressive. Right now, it would have Tennessee as the 6, Texas at the 1 in the top in the Fort Worth region. It says there in this latest ESPN bracketology that was released, North Dakota State would be out in Ames, which I don't think anybody would be opposed to. Ames isn't that far away. You make your way down there. Minnesota in the mix as well. That's pretty cool. That's a good nod to where NDSU women's basketball is at right now. Again, a 9-game win streak, longest in the D1 era. But as Jory has told us throughout the week, the most important one is the next one. And we'll see if they can get that done to start Summit League play. They're back at home 1 week from today against Kansas. And Kansas has already got a Summit League win under their belt. Kansas City, excuse me. They beat Omaha just the other day. So they're at the top right now, and we'll see them next Thursday, and then they're also back at home next Saturday against Omaha. And if you haven't made it out to the Shack yet to watch either the men or the women, be sure to do that. It's some really, really good basketball going on. That being said, we're due for a break. Let's step aside when we come back. A lot to let you know what to watch tonight is loaded. We'll get into that. We'll give you a Vikings update as well. Wrapping up this Thursday morning, first day of the new year, when we come back on Hot Mic. Final couple minutes left to go on this Thursday morning, first show of 2026. Thanks again for joining us. Looking forward to seeing what the new year is going to bring. Again, Sam Getzinger filling in for Dom Izzo. Dom will be back projected on Monday. Of course, he's making his way down to Nashville this weekend. SCS National Championship is next Monday. The Walter Payton Awards ceremony, all the FCS awards are coming up on Saturday. He'll be hosting that, which you can watch on inforum.com Saturday evening. And, of course, with air travel, we'll see how everything goes. We'll cross our fingers that he's able to make it back in a timely manner. But if not, I'll be on standby. So we'll see how that goes. Dom's got the week off, but he's been busy at work from home. There's no doubt about that. So looking forward to seeing him back here at the station, seeing everybody back at the station. It's a ghost town over here. Even looking at the tower cams, there's nobody driving around. Hope everybody's enjoying their day off. It's been a fun one. Eric and I and Brody back in the booth are excited to enjoy what time off we can get here for the rest of the day before we're back at it tomorrow. With that being said, I promised a Vikings update. Want to get to that before we get into our what to watch. Some okay news for the Minnesota Vikings heading into their season finale against the Green Bay Packers, the border battle coming up on Sunday. It sounds like JJ back to practice a little bit. That was the announcement made at the media availability yesterday for KOC. It's the first time that he's been able to get back in some action since the hairline fracture in his right hand in this game that you're watching here against the New York Giants earlier this month. He's been limited, not getting every rep. And, of course, as we talked about yesterday with Alec Osmus, it's all about if he can grip the football, which I imagine is pretty important for a quarterback. It sounds like the swelling has gone down for a little bit. I'm on the fence with this a little bit. I understand for Vikings fans. I'm a noted Colts fan, so this is my outside perspective on this. I understand why it's important for JJ to play on Sunday. You want to see what the future holds, and of course, reps are super important for a young quarterback at this point in his career who hasn't gotten a ton of reps. I understand that, but I'm also on the side of, as well, if he's not 100%, why risk it and make the injury worse? Maybe that's just my hot take for the day, but that's where I stand on that. Eric, throw up the injury report once again. Came out yesterday. This is kind of what the Vikings are looking like right now. Blake Cashman, limited. Harrison Smith down at the bottom, limited. Looks like rest. You got to give the old man a break sometime. He's been playing really good football. McCarthy getting a couple of snaps. Aaron Jones doesn't look too great for him. Jordan Mason limited. I guess that's okay. Maybe you can get a running back for Sunday. We'll have to see how that goes against the Packers. Again, we've been saying it all week. The game means nothing for Green Bay. They're locked in at their spot in the playoffs. All the other games are going to determine on where they go for the wild card round. The game means more for the Vikings. Obviously, they're going to go out and win, but it means a lot if they lose. Brought this up yesterday. I'll bring it up again in case you forget. The draft picking. They can go anywhere from 13th to 18th, depending on the outcome of their game and whatever else happens. All right, with that being said, we're running out of time. Came up out of nowhere. Let's get to our What to Watch real quick. All right, as we mentioned, North Dakota State opens up conference play against Oral Roberts, 7 o'clock on the Summit League Network. We'll have the highlights for you on the news later on tonight and also on Hot Mic coming up tomorrow. College football playoffs makes a return this evening and this afternoon. In about 3 minutes, it's Oregon, Texas Tech. Later on this afternoon, Alabama, Indiana. And then we wrap up the night with Ole Miss and Georgia, all those games on ESPN. Thanks again for joining us to start 2026. It's been fun. Let's have a good new year, shall we? We'll see you back here tomorrow. Thanks to all our guests for joining us. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later on. All right, we'll see you in our second show. Big day tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Thursday.